All right, lesson 21. Last week we read chapter 2, sutra 1 to 10. That was the introduction of pranayama in general and the introduction of the first pranayama, nadi shodhana pranayama. Today we continue reading chapter 2, sutra 11. One should practice well kumbhakas 4 times a day, in the early morning, midday, evening, and midnight, gradually, until they number 80 each time. Kumbhakas, you know, the kumbhaka is the stage of the retention. After the inflow, there is a retention, and after outflow, there's a retention. That's the most important stage. And here the author of the book, Svatmarama, refers to the pranayama exercise as kumbhaka. That is what the kumbhaka means here. So not just the one retention stage, but the pranayama exercise as a whole. He says you should do this 4 times a day. In the early morning, midday, evening, and midnight. That seems to suggest that you should do this every day 4 times a day. That is not the case. It is important to understand why he tells us to do this 4 times a day. He actually tells us to do it at 4 different times of the day. That is because the universe and nature on earth is in a constant flow of changing energy. At night, Shiva energy prevails. In the daytime, Shakti energy prevails, and it's constantly shifting. We are part of that cycle. So our condition is also constantly shifting along with the change of Shiva and Shakti domination. This means when you do a pranayama exercise, which influences your condition, your energy levels, it will have a different effect on you depending on the condition that you're in. So when you do nadi shodhana pranayama in the morning, it will have a different effect on you than compared to when you do it late in the evening or in the afternoon. Now, why is this then necessary? That is to become familiar. 1, with yourself, your condition, and your fluctuating condition throughout the day and the night. 2, to become familiar with the effect of the pranayama exercises. Each pranayama exercise that follows after nadi shodhana lays the foundation, cleanses the energy channels. After that, each of the pranayamas has a very specific goal to deal with very specific conditions that human beings with polluted or obstructed energy channels are all suffering from. Each of those exercises has a particular purpose, but each of those exercises also, depending on the time of the day, will have or will affect you differently. That is why he says to do it 4 times a day. Does not mean that you do it every day 4 times a day, but the need to experience it at different times of the day so you become familiar with your condition and the fluctuation of your condition and the effect of the particular exercise that you are doing at that moment, that you become more aware of that. Gradually is a word that he uses a lot. Highlight it if you can. But it means that gradually means that when you rush things, it doesn't really have an impact. In case of the pranayama, the counting, if you count fast and you're done within a couple of minutes with your whole exercise, it doesn't really have an impact. It's shallow. If you do it very slowly, gradually, focused, it will have a much deeper impact. You will see there is a sutra somewhere that we will very soon come across where the word gradually is used 3 times. And it applies to everything, not only in yoga, but everything in life, basically. When we rush things, the results are mediocre. If we take our time, really focus on it, really absorb what we are, or connect with what we are focusing on, the results are just much better, excellent as a result. Also very interesting is the last sentence, gradually, until they number 80. You don't understand what this means until you meet a teacher who is properly initiated. I got my initiation from Ajita. Ajita was initiated by mysterious yogis traveling the world in Europe and America for the past 1.5 centuries to spread yoga. 80, that is the ultimate number of your count, which I explained last week. The highest count that you reach in pranayama starts with 80 inflow, 320 retention, kumbhaka, 160 outflow, followed by the last retention of 320. Counting gradually at this level, your pranayama will take between half an hour and 45 minutes. And it's only the beginning of your meditation. Here you are, after several years of building up, you are meditating close to 1.5 hours each meditation. So it's referring to this 80, the start of your pranayama. Sutra 12. In the first stage, there's perspiration. In the second, tremor is felt. And in the highest stage, the energy goes to the chief place, Brahmarandra. So one should control the energy. He's always talking in symbolical language. This kind of sutra makes people believe that when you meditate, if you sweat or shake, that's a good thing, because that's what he mentions. But everything in yoga is subtle. And it's not about really sweating or trembling, shaking. This is symbolical language for the condition in which there is Shakti domination. The first cycle starts with Shakti in, Shiva out, which leaves you with Shakti domination. You've taken in more Shakti and released Shiva. It leaves you with more Shakti. That's the first stage. The second stage, tremor is felt. That is the stage where you take in Shiva energy and you let out Shakti energy, leaving you with Shiva domination. The ultimate goal of everything that we do in yoga is to reach the condition where energy rises up through Sushumna Nadi and fuels the crown chakra. That is Brahmarandra. Brahmarandra literally means the cavity of God, which is the crown chakra. And that is why, so one should control the energy. That is why yoga in general and pranayama in particular is important for mankind. 13, same here with the symbolical language. Rub on the body the perspiration resulting from fatigue. By this, the body derives firmness and lightness. This is referring, not only in yoga but in daily life, to taking time to recover, to refresh, to recover. In asana, it means After you've done your posture, you take a little time to allow the energy to settle down. That is the rubbing of the energy, allowing the energy to spread. In the pranayama, it's the kumbhaka stage, after the inflow and after the outflow, but it's also the time that you take after you finish the pranayama to concentrate on nada. That is where the magic happens. That is where the effect of the pranayama takes place. So this means that when you don't have so much time to practice yoga because of a busy schedule, because of a full-time job, or taking care of family, it is better to sit down and concentrate on nada if you don't have so much time, than that you do a pranayama without taking time to concentrate on nada, allowing the effect to take place. Because when you sit down on your cushion and you meditate only, not just with your eyes closed, like many people who claim to meditate, they are freewheeling more or less with their eyes closed. But meditation is actually really mind control, concentration of the mind, concentration on nada, persistently. And when you do that, you are already controlling energy. If you do that, sattva will occur, peace of mind will occur. And when you don't have so much time, you want to do your pranayama, but you have no time for concentration on nada. My opinion is that it's actually better to forego the pranayama and do a concentration on nada only. And when it comes to asana practice also, if you don't have so much time, you can break up your practice. You can do asana in the morning and pranayama and concentration on nada in the evening. Or if you prefer, you can do it the other way around. Doing things in a hurry is never going to work, so it's better to focus on what is most important. The word gradual is essential in that sense. So the body, by doing this, the body derives firmness and lightness. When you're tired, when you fatigue yourself, you wear yourself out literally. Being in a Shakti condition persistently, like many people who work full-time, which is required, but is not healthy. And you, more than others, as a yogi, you realize that. You start to become aware of that more and more with time passing. You wear yourself out. And eventually, you burn out. That's where the word burnout comes. It's literally burning out, because Shakti is heat. And when you are constantly in a Shakti condition without sufficient time to recover and refresh, you age, you literally age. Oxidation is occurring in the cells. When you have an opportunity to take enough time to rest, you not only feel better, you also look better and be much healthier as a result. So this does not only apply to pranayama, it applies to everything you do in life. Sutra 14. In the early stages of practice, food mixed with milk and ghee is prescribed. But when practice has advanced, such restrictions need not be observed. Food mixed with milk and ghee, those were the superfoods of the past. They didn't have Red Bull or caffeinated drinks. Didn't exist. So people's diet generally was very austere. And milk and ghee were actually luxury foods that only royal families could afford to eat on a daily basis. But when you start practicing yoga from a condition of a normal person, an unconditioned person, you kind of turn everything upside down in your whole system. And in the beginning, you're simply using more calories in that process. After a little while, when your condition improves, you settle down and you don't need more calories anymore. That's literally what he's saying. In the beginning stages, food mixed with milk and ghee to provide you with extra nutrition. But then, once you get used to it, there's no need for such thing anymore. Such restrictions need not be observed when practice has advanced. 15. As the lion, elephant, or tiger is tamed gradually, even so should energy be brought under control, else it will kill the practitioner. Well, there are stories of people who are impatient and increase the count in the beginning too rapidly, who end up with headaches, pain in the eyeballs or the facial muscles. I've never heard of people actually dying from it, as the text suggests, that it might kill the practitioner. But the word gradually comes to the surface again in this sutra. Take your time. There's no need to rush. Sutra 16, through the proper practice of pranayama, along with the right foot and proper bandhas, there is freedom from all diseases. By a mistaken course of yoga, the practitioner brings all diseases upon themselves. All diseases, in essence, start with a blockage or an obstruction in the energy circulation. When you practice yoga regularly, you purify any existing obstacles in the energy circulation, hence the healing aspect of yoga, hence the practitioner overall being much healthier than the average other people. You bringing all diseases upon yourself with a wrong course of yoga. Try to imagine that you do pranayama as breath control, which is, if you follow the instructions, literally is impossible. Or that you do kriya exercises, literally as described, swallowing bandage, letting it soak in the stomach and pulling it out again. Sucking up water through the anus through a bamboo tube in Vashti. These things are very damaging, and that can be considered a wrong course of yoga, a mistaken course of yoga. Sutra 17, a wrong course of pranayama produces hiccup, asthma, bronchial diseases, pains in the head, ears and eyes, and various other diseases. I think I mentioned this at Sutra 15 already. And this happens especially when you do pranayama as breath control. And now comes the sutra with gradual, mentioned 3 times. Sutra 18, one should gradually efflux the energy and as gradually draws it in. One should also restrain it gradually. And thus, siddhi is obtained. Siddhis are supernatural or paranormal abilities. What are supernatural or paranormal abilities? They're actually very natural and very normal. Because everybody latently possesses those abilities, but we lack the sensitivity. It is the ancient people who were not polluted by mental baggage through education and media. They are very simple and very sensitive. We mentioned it before. It leads to superstition because those people sense vibrations in their surroundings and they call them spirits or ghosts. The modern human being generally is too much burdened mentally to possess that sensitivity. But a siddhi is your super sensitivity, your ability to there are 30 siddhis described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Sounds a little bit like reading a Bible, like awakening a dead person or communicating with animals, talking with animals. But we talked about the telephone phenomenon. When you think of a person, you're about to grab your phone to dial their number or send them a message, and before you can even do something, the phone rings, and it's actually that person that is calling. It means that you have picked up a vibration of that person thinking of you, calling you. But it can also be the other way around. Because you started thinking of that person, you reach for your phone, that person felt your vibration. That is a siddhi. Siddhi is subtle. And we call them supernatural and paranormal because we can't really explain them. But in yoga they are very natural, and every yogi gradually becomes more and more sensitive, and you don't even know that you develop those siddhis, but you do. And it is very natural and it is very normal, so nothing supernatural or paranormal about it. A person who possesses siddhis is a siddha. You will see that word mentioned when we read more of the texts. 19. When the nadis are purified, there are external signs. Leanness and brightness of the body are definitely produced. You feel healthier. You feel lighter. Instead of taking one step at a time when you go up the stairs, you feel like taking 2 steps at a time. It feels like walking on springs, light, agile, energetic. That is the result of your yoga practice in general, and pranayama in particular. Sutra 20, when one is able to restrain the energy as desired, when the gastric fire becomes more active and the nada is heard, there is perfect health, because the nadis are purified. Very interesting this. Nada is mentioned. Most yoga teachers have never heard of nada, which either means they've never read this book, which is a fundamental scripture that basically every yogi or yoga teacher should have studied, or they've read the text, but not understanding the meaning behind the symbolism, they just read over it. They do not realize that nada is actually a thing. It's mentioned here, it's mentioned multiple times in the text, and it's in between brackets, it's called the inner sound. Another interesting thing here is the gastric fire. Many people think of digestion when it comes to gastric fire, but gastric fire is your vital energy. And I haven't explained that yet, but this is crucial, because when you talk about Manipura chakra, many Buddhist monks and many people in martial arts, traditional martial arts, they talk about what in Korean is called the danjan. And they say it's Manipura chakra. But then when you ask them where it's located, some will point somewhere below their navel. Or they will say it's the navel. So which is it? Is it Manipura chakra, which is close to the diaphragm? Is it the navel, or is it below? The right answer is, it's all of it. What happens, and that's the result of the Sushumna phenomenon where energy starts to rise. What happens is this. These are the 3 lowest chakras below the diaphragm. And in unconditioned people, they are just low on energy and not really vibrant, not really vital. When you start practicing yoga, your chakras become energized, especially with Shakti energy. Now when Shakti energy occurs, Shakti energy expands and rises up. Shiva energy contracts and descends. The gastric fire phenomenon, and this is also the dungeon, is this. Apana prana expands and rises up, and it merges, it fuses with the samana prana of Svadhisthana chakra. Those 2 energy together continue to expand and rise up and merge with the energy, the generic prana of Manipura chakra. And together, those 3 form one big ball of vital, vibrant energy. And it is this energy that leads to excellent health, to indeed also very well functioning digestive system, because that is, after all, located in this area. And it is this that is the source of our vital energy and responsible for the fueling of the crown chakra. And very interesting fact is that there is a community of spiritual people high in the Himalayas, and they practice what they call Tumo, or Tumo yoga. Now, 40 years ago, there were these rumors about these yogis somewhere in the Himalayas, high up in the Himalayas, super cold. They would go out in the evening, naked, and sit on a rock in the freezing cold, with a wet blanket draped around them. Doing something like that as an untrained person, you would die very soon because of what's it called when you're undercooled? Hypothermia. Because of hypothermia. And what they do, which was not explained 40 years ago, what they do is they have shared their secrets, which for centuries they didn't. It's a recent development. You can Google it, Tumo Yoga. You will find information about this community. They've allowed scientists to spend time with them and observe what they do. And they've also, for the first time ever, explained what they are actually doing, what makes it possible that they meditate all night. When the morning comes, not only the blanket is dry, the water has evaporated because of the heat that they generate, but the snow and the ice on the rock on which they sit around them has melted. And what they said is what they do is they intensely concentrate, meditate on this ball of fire in their stomach, which leads to an elevation of the body temperature that allows them to survive something that otherwise would kill any other person. These kind of things have happened in the past 2 decades or so, where those kind of mysterious and actually, honestly, unbelievable things have been allowed to be investigated, researched by scientists, and also opening up of those secret communities. Another example of this is Prahlad. Prahlad unfortunately died not so long ago. But Prahlad is a yogi who claimed not to have eaten nor drank anything since he was 8 or 11 years old. He says that he was struck by God and that he ever since then has fed himself through a hole in the palate, which we know means that he feeds himself with large amounts of Shiva energy, to such extent that he doesn't need food or drink. Nobody believes that, of course. So what they have done with Prahlad, because he opened up about this, about 15 years ago or so, or 20 years ago, they did this twice, the experiment. The first time they put him in a hospital room, completely controlled, locked off, surrounded by CCTV cameras for 10 days. And for 10 days, he didn't eat, he didn't drink, he never went to the toilet. Which means he's not really lying, because you can stop eating for 10 days, fasting, a little bit extreme 10 days, but it's possible. There are people who do that, but you cannot stop drinking for 10 days. And not at all ever going to the toilet, passing stool or urine. They repeated this experiment 10 years later or so. I don't know the exact numbers, but with some substantial number of years in between. And the second time they did this experiment with him, they extended the period, 14 days. And the same result occurred. Prahlad, you can look it up. All right, this was the last sutra for this session. Let's have a short break.